We're getting update day tomorrow in Modern Warfare 2. About time. Am I right? Let me know in the comment section, like, if you guys have been a little frustrated with the updates or lack of transparency in Modern Warfare 2, because I know I have. I love multiplayer, but feeling like I've just been stuck to Modern Warfare, to Warzone 2, because Modern Warfare hasn't been getting updated is just kind of trashy. But I'm giving you guys the top 5 best loadouts in Modern Warfare 2. I don't have the new weapons yet because obviously the update isn't out yet, but these weapons are going to be absolutely nasty. Just in the event that the new weapons aren't meta, I doubt any of these weapons are actually going to get nerfed. So, we're starting out with the PDSW. A lot of people actually don't pay attention to the PDSW, and this weapon is incredible. I don't know why people don't give it much attention. And honestly, I gave you guys 4 attachments because there's so many things you can actually do with the 5th attachment. So PDSW is a SMG that has 50 rounds. Now, what you can do is you can quite literally throw on the STIP 40 grip to increase the recoil control. You can throw on a rail for more movement. You can, well, I don't really suggest ammunition, but you can increase the muzzle, throw the muzzle on there for literally any of these. And so it's really up there, whatever you want to do to actually finish this one out. We're starting out with the FTAC Series 9, 14.5 inches. And this helps with the damage range, hip fire accuracy, movement speed, and bullet velocity at the cost of hip recoil control, aim down sight speed, and recoil control. I increased the damage range by 0.25 inches and the recoil steadiness by 0.48 pounds. I also put on the VLK Laser 7 MW for the increased aim down sight speed, aiming stability, and sprint to fire speed at the cost of the laser being visible in ADS. I put on the CQB stock. This helps with crouch movement speed, sprint speed, and aim down sight speed at the cost of recoil control. I increased the aiming out stability at 0.77 inches and decreased the weight by 0.52 ounces for aim down sight speed increase. I put on the TV TACOM for sprint to fire speed and aim down sight speed at the cost of aiming stability and aim walking speed. I increased the recoil stabilization by 0.25 ounces. And here is the last thing. Like I said, you can do so many things with this. It really depends on if you want to have a mobile PDSW, more damage PDSW, or less recoil. So less recoil, we're going to put on the STIP. For more movement, you put on literally either of these, completely up to you. And then if you want more range, you put on the X10. So for this, I'm actually going to put on the STIP. If you want to tune it, you can. We can maybe increase the aiming out stability, probably about like right there, 21. And the recoil steadiness, we can probably leave it about right there on the 14. And so when we go into the firing range, I got to just show you guys how amazing this is. This is literally unreal. Like, I love how powerful this one weapon is. And the lack of recoil makes it insane. The only downside is long range is not really going to be ideal. So kind of avoid long range unless you're going to burst fire. But just the fact that you melt so fast, and this thing doesn't look like it's going to be that dangerous. I feel like this weapon's actually going to be a new meta in Warzone 2 as well. Just the fact that people don't really pay attention to the PDSW. They don't really think it's much of a threat. I don't know why. Maybe it's just because the Fennec is that nasty. But this weapon is such a sleeper. And I don't think that they're going to notice to nerf this. This thing is so powerful. Please give this weapon a try. Whether you want to use it right now or you want to use it after the update, this weapon is going to be unreal. Next, we're moving on to the M4. The M4 is literally a weapon that I would consider the most balanced weapon with an incredibly high fire rate. Has decent damage, has great damage, great mobility, and great fire rate. That's why I say overall it's fantastic. I don't think the Ironside is my favorite, but it's still usable. We're starting out with the high tower 20-inch barrel for the bullet velocity, damage range, recoil control, and hip fire accuracy at the cost of aim down sight speed, movement speed, and hip recoil control. Increase the damage range by 0.21 inches and the recoil steadiness by 0.31 pounds. Put on the Schleicher Peck box for the increased aim down sight speed with no cons. Put on the Demo Precision Elite Factory for aiming stability, recoil control at the cost of aim down sight speed, crouch moving speed, aim walking speed, and sprint speed. I increased the aiming out stability up 1.08 inches, and I didn't change the weight. Put on the X10 grip for sprint to fire speed and aim down sight speed at the cost of recoil control. I increased the sprint to fire speed by negative 0.10 inches and the recoil steadiness by 0.23 ounces. I put on the 45 round mag. I did not use the 60 just because it's unnecessary. If you don't want to use the 45, it's completely up to you. You'll have more movement speed, aim down sight speed, and sprint to fire speed, and you can just throw something else on there like, I don't know, high velocity or some sort of underbarrel like FTAC, but that's completely up to you. Just showing you guys how amazing this weapon is, though. Like I said, I'm not a huge fan of the sight, but I do think the sight is usable. It's completely fine, and as you guys see, the damage is fantastic. It gets the job done very quickly, along with the fire rate. So I highly recommend using this build. You guys will do fantastic short, medium, and long range, and I think anybody can literally use it. If you don't like how this iron sight looks, then just throw an optic on there and you'll be good. We're gonna show you guys the Lockman Sub though. The Lockman Sub is a dangerous weapon to have. I think it's fantastic competitive wise and non-competitive wise. We're starting out the AVR T90 comp. I increased the recoil stabilization by 0.23 inches, but this helps with the horizontal and vertical recoil control at the cost of aim down sight speed and aiming stability. As you guys see, I didn't actually change the gun kit control just because it's actually not necessary. You can just leave it alone, and trust me, at the end, this weapon will be a no recoil machine with a ton of movement. Put on the FTech M Sub 12 inch for bullet velocity, damage range, recoil control, and hip fire accuracy at the cost of aim down sight speed, movement speed, and hip recoil control. I increased the damage range by 0.31 inches and the recoil steadiness by 0.19 pounds. Put on the LM stockless mod for aim down sight speed, sprint to fire speed, movement speed, and hip recoil control at the cost of aiming recoil control, aiming stability, and flinch resistance. Some people would think that I'm crazy for this build, but trust me, you're not even going to notice recoil when I'm done. Put on the Lockman TCG10 for recoil control at the reduction of aiming stability. I increased the sprint to fire speed by 0.17 inches on the negative side. Now, if you guys don't want to focus so much on mobility, increase recoil control a little bit more, just move the aiming out stability and the recoil steadiness in the opposite directions. But I decreased the weight by negative 0.03 ounces for aim down sight speed increase. And then I put on a 40 round mag. If you don't want to use a 40 round mag, completely up to you. You can just throw on an underbarrel, whether you want to use either of these, FTech Tiger Grip, Shark Fin, completely up to you, is completely fine. But just to show you guys the outcome, the movement is actually fantastic. You can move around very fast. You're not going to have an issue. You can actually strafe pretty good. And like I said, you have very little recoil to actually worry about. The only downside is long range. Don't even attempt long range. You're just going to struggle. Like, for the most part, you're probably not going to hit. It's probably going to bounce a little too much. So stick to what it's good at, which is the short to medium range, and you'll do a fantastic job melting the enemies incredibly fast. In fact, you might actually kill faster than the FEDEC and the PDSW. Now, moving on, we actually have the Kastov 74U. The Kastov 74U is a hybrid, which I absolutely love. This Kastov 74U has always been my favorite, like one of my favorite weapons throughout the entire game's life cycle, just because of how incredible and how easy it is to use. We start out with the Echoless 80 for the sound suppression, bullet velocity, damage range, and recoil smoothness at the cost of aim down sight speed and aiming stability. I increased the bullet velocity by 0.52 inches and the recoil smoothness by 0.72 ounces. Put on the Schleicher Peck Box for the increased aim down sight speed. The Rosette stock for aim walking speed and sprint speed at the cost of aiming stability. I increased the aiming out stability by 0.08 inches, and I didn't change the weight. Put on the Demo X2 grip for recoil control at the cost of aiming stability. I increased the sprint to fire speed by negative 0.25 inches and increased the recoil steadiness by 0.29 ounces. Put on a 45 round mag, not necessary, but you can run it just to have as many bullets as possible. This is not going to do much damage regardless, even though it says all the cons. Just to show you guys how amazing this is. Like I said, it doesn't do much damage. Like, it's going to show you guys it's slowed down a little bit, but in my opinion, if you just play like this, where you're just like ADSing the strafe and all that, you'll be good to go. But that's not the important thing. The important thing is just showing you guys how good this actually is. Short to long range, it actually is fantastic. Now, you guys gotta keep in mind, it's an AR, but it literally plays like an SMG. An AR that plays like an SMG, that has the mobility of an SMG but the range of an AR, it's fantastic. It doesn't have a ridiculously high fire rate, but the fire rate definitely does enough damage on the bullets. So in my opinion, this is probably one of the best weapons you can actually have in any situation. All you need to do is actually have a good shot. But the final weapon I want to show you guys is the meta for Modern Warfare 2, and that is the TAC 56. Now, a lot of people are actually sleeping on the TAC 56, and it's actually insane. This isn't the build right here. I actually want to show you guys the actual build. So if we change it, the build is actually this. This is the actual true build. So this build is one of my personal favorites, and whether you agree with it or not, this just gets the job done. So I throw on the Harbinger D20 for the sound suppression, bullet velocity, damage range, and recoil smoothness at the cost of aim down sight speed, aiming stability, and aim walking speed. I increased the bullet velocity by 0.65 inches and the recoil smoothness by 0.77 ounces. Put on the 17.5 Tundra Pro barrel for the damage range, hip fire accuracy, and bullet velocity at the cost, aim down sight speed, and hip recoil control. I put on an increase of 0.30 inches for damage range and decreased the weight by 0.27 pounds for aim walking speed. Put on the TV Cardinal stock for aim walking speed and sprint speed at the cost of aiming stability. So I increased the aiming out stability by 1.86 inches and the aim down sight speed by negative 1.94 ounces. Put on the FSS combat grip for the recoil control At the cost of aiming stability, I actually increased the sprint to fire speed by negative 0.20 inches and the recoil steadiness by 0.71 ounces. Last but not least, I put on a 40 round mag. This decreases the movement, aim on sight speed, and sprint to fire speed. But just show you guys the outcome, this thing is literally a tank. Such little recoil. And the beautiful thing is you have plenty of mobility. I mean, plenty of mobility. Look at that. You're strafing perfectly fine with this AR. You can keep strafing while you're firing. You're not going to have much of an issue. So this is why I say this is probably the best weapon to have in Modern Warfare 2. It's just so dangerous and so easy to use. Now, especially if you're standing still, you're going to have a much better time. I mean, that was probably one of my worst shots, and that was me not moving. But just to give you guys an understanding, this is such a fantastic weapon to use that I would highly recommend anybody that has this on there, at least use it if you're playing against tryhards. You're not going to have an issue, and you're going to get the job done very easily.